Hey, my name's Mike. I'm a developer from Philadelphia, and in this video, I'm going to be walking you through the block letters C++ project. We'll take a look at the following key concepts, including printing to the console, as well as using the new line character. I'm really excited to show you guys this project, and without further ado, let's get started. We'll head over to Code Academy. Over here on the left, we have our instructions. So these are all the tasks that we're going to be completing. In the middle here is our C++ text editor. We'll be writing all of our C++. And then finally, over here on the right is our terminal. That's where we're going to be compiling and then running our C++ programs. Let's take a look at the project description. It says block letters. Write a C++ program called initials.cpp that displays your initials on the screen in block letters as shown. So down here, they're showing us some examples of what block letters might look like. And this is kind of what we're going to aim to be drawing out onto the screen. So if you look closely, you'll see that we have different cells. So for example, here's a D, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these little columns. And then down here, they show you how many of these different rows and which letters need to go in which one of these spaces. So we're going to do our best to replicate what these look like. Although if it's not perfect, it's really not a big deal. So let's take a look. We have 7 tasks that we need to complete. And we'll start with step number 1. So it says, as an example of what we're building, my initials are S and L. Now this is the author's initials. My initials, my name is Mike Dane, so they're MD. So this is what SL would look like. And in this project, we'll be doing my initials, like I said, which is MD. So there's what SL's initials look like. We can check off step number 1. We kind of have an idea of what we're doing now. So our goal is to print this out, but obviously with your initials over here in the terminal. And step number 2, we're going to add the skeleton of our C++ program. You can actually just copy this and we'll paste this over here. So this is our program. And down here in our main function, we're going to be printing all of our stuff out. So we're going to be using this cout function, and we'll use that to print out all of the individual letters. Now, the way that this function works is it's going to print out one line at a time. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to use this cout function a bunch of different times. We'll stack it on top of each other, and each line we're going to be printing out, a single line from the letter. So if you look up here at these letters, each one of these cout statements is going to print out one of these lines. So if we're doing the D, for example, the first one would print out this top line, the second one would print out this next line, the third one would print out the third line, etc., and we just go all the way down. So that's kind of the strategy of how we're going to be doing this. So we can check out number 2, we added our skeleton, and in number 3, we're going to output our first initial. So in my case, it's going to be an M because my name's Mike, although you should do your first initial. So whatever the first initial of your name is, you can go ahead and do that one, unless you want to do M along with me. So if we look over here, we can see what an M is supposed to look like. So it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows and 5 columns. So we can go ahead and try that out. First, we'll create a row that has 5 columns. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be my 5 spaces. And then over here, the last one that we want is going to be the new line character. So the new line character is just going to print out a new line. So over here, I'm going to copy this, and I'm actually going to paste this down. So I think we said we had 7 of these different rows. So I'm going to do this 7 just like that. Now you can either do the cout function a bunch of times with the new line at the end, or you could do all of this in a single cout function just using this new line character to break out the new lines. I think doing it like this is just a lot more straightforward, so that's how I'm going to do it. But just so you know, there are other ways that you could technically do this. So now we're going to start printing out the M. So it looks like with the M, over here on the left side, we just have a bunch of M's going straight up, and then here there's like this block of 4 M's. So let's see if we can replicate that. So I'm going to do that for the first character here. I'm going to make it an M, going all the way up. So we'll just make M's. And then I think we said that there was a block of 4 M's just right here. So that looks like the picture. And then it was the same thing on the other side. So we had M's going all the way down. And then again, there was a block of 4 M's just right here. Okay, and then we had 1 M that was in the middle right here. And there we go. We have our M. So this is a little skinny M, although it does match exactly what they had over here. So I'm pretty happy with that. And why don't we check off step number 3? So we drew out our M. And now I'm going to move on to step number 4, where we're going to compile and execute to make sure that we got your results. So over here, we're going to do that. I'm going to say G++, just like this. And then I'm going to type out the name of the file. The name of the file is right up here, initials.cpp. So I'm going to type in initials.cpp. I'm going to hit enter. And you'll notice that we're getting an error here. That's because I forgot the most important step. I forgot to save. So I'm going to go ahead and click save down here. And now we're going to try this again. So I'll show you guys a quick tip. If you have your terminal here and it looks a little messy, so you see I have all this messy error code here because I forgot to save, you can type in clear and hit enter, and that's going to clear everything away. Another thing you can do is once you've already typed something into the terminal, you can hit the up arrow on your keyboard and it'll automatically bring back the things that you typed. So now I can bring this back. I'm going to hit enter, and now that we saved, you'll see that we don't get an error anymore. Now I'm going to say ./a.out because this is the file that got created. This is the file that we're going to be executing, and I'll hit enter, and you'll see here that we're printing out the M. So that looks good. We printed out my initial. Now, obviously, you guys can play around with making these as beautiful as you want. My M's a little bit skinny, but I think overall I can tell it's an M, so I think it looks good. But make yours as beautiful and as pretty as you want. Let's check off step number 4, though, and move on to step number 5. We're going to output our second initial. Now, if you'll notice up here, the SLs that got printed out were printed out side by side, just like that. So I want to do the same thing. The next thing we're going to print out is going to be the D. So I'm actually going to put 2 spaces in between here. And then we'll start printing out our D. So here's the D down here we can look at for reference. So it just has D's going all the way down, and then there's 4 going to the right, and then there's, 5 more over on the 5th column there. Let's do that. I'll put D's going all the way down. And then we had 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to put 4 up here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then down here we had a D that was over here. And then there was just D's there for the rest of the row. So I'm actually going to copy this, and I can just paste this using Control V or Command V. And I'm going to paste that all the way down. So now we have our D, and I'll put spaces here. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good D to me, and we can check off step number 5, and then we're going to do the same exact thing that we did before. So now we're going to compile and execute. The first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to click Save down here. Make sure that we save it this time. I'll also clear this out. And once again, we can hit the up arrow on our keyboard a couple times until we get back to this G++ command. So I'm going to hit Enter, and now I'm going to hit up on the keyboard 3 more times, and we'll run a.out. So you'll see here now, not only am I printing out the M, I'm also printing out the D. So there we have my initials. That looks good to me. I'm going to check off step number 6. And if we head down to step number 7, that is the last step, which is actually talking about how the project walkthrough video is coming soon. And I'm actually recording that right now. So you guys probably won't see this step. You'll just see this video. That's going to do it for our initials project, though. So we were able to print out these block letters. And real quick, I just want to review what we actually did. So we have these cout function calls, right? Cout right here. And we're printing out different lines of text onto the terminal. So here, I'm essentially printing out the top line of my 2 initials, and then the next line, and then the next line, and then the next line. But as it prints all of them out, they look a lot like block letters. And this is something that's really useful to do in any programming language, is you can print things out. And it's kind of like the first program that you're ever going to write in any programming language. Generally, you're going to be printing things out. But this is taking that a step further, where not only were we printing just letters, we're actually printing block letters. So it's kind of like an image. So one thing I would definitely recommend doing is continue to play around with this. The more you play around with printing out different block letters, and the more you try to format these things differently and try to make them look even better, the more comfortable you're going to get, not only using the cout function, but also just working with C++ in general. Like the more times that you come over here to compile your code and execute it, and maybe you run into a little error, or like I did before, you forget to save, the more times you make these little mistakes and you do these little things, the more comfortable you're going to get in C++. And you should never be afraid to make a mistake. So I'm going to leave it at that. I want to say thank you so much for watching. From all of us here at Code Academy, I've been Mike, and happy coding.